Colt and I'm from Sundridge, Ontario, and I'm a professional ice oval snowmobile racer. We did a lot of snowmobile, just trail riding for fun. That was kind of what we did on the weekends and through the week after school, and I always really liked snowmobiling. So then my dad, he always wanted to restore an old snowmobile, a Mercury snow twister they were called. They were popular in the 70s. So anyway, he did that when I was maybe around 14 or so. And then they actually I had never been to a snowmobile oval race before, but Dad always talked about they used to have them in Owen Sound and Peterborough, some big races around where we were from. So then when I was in high school, they had a race in Burkes Falls, Ontario, which is about 10 minutes from where my parents live. So we went and watched that the one year, and then at that time my dad had restored this old snowmobile, and he had wondered if I'd want to try oval racing, trying to race snowmobiles. And I didn't really know anything about it. I thought it sounded kind of cool. So we went to a race to watch, and I thought it was something I'd like to try. And then the next year we bought a used snowmobile just to try oval racing, just in a lower beginner class. And yeah, I tried it that first year. I was 16 or in grade 9 at high school, and yeah, I liked it right from the start. So from that year, that was in 2010, we started doing that, and we've raced every year since then, and it's kind of taken over our winters. I usually just describe it as like a stock car racing track or a horse track, but smaller. So the tracks are all made of ice, flooded, and then some of them are flat, some of them are banked, but it's like a small stock car, NASCAR racetrack. And the snowmobiles, they're not something you see at a dealership that you can go buy. They're really low, small snowmobiles that nowadays they're all pretty well custom built, and the engines are modified just for this racing discipline. There used to be a really strong series just in Canada. In the past couple of years that's kind of gone away, but the first year racing we went to 3 or 4 races, maybe 4 or 5 max, one in New York and then a couple in Quebec and Ontario. And that year, like I said, it was just a used sled we bought and just a beginner or sport class they'd called it. And I did quite well that year. I won the first race I was at, and then the second race weekend I ever had, I crashed and broke my collarbone actually. So we had to take a couple weekends off, and then we did a couple more races by the end of the year again. So that was really just the learning year, getting into it. And I won quite a few races that year actually, and won the sport level championship that year. So the next year we wanted to progress a little further, so Dad and I built our own snowmobile. As far as speeds racing on bigger tracks like this in Manitoba, this is one of the larger tracks we race at, and it'd be 102, 104 miles per hour. And that's pretty average on a larger track. I find when you're watching a race, it looks a lot faster than when I'm doing it. And I actually still, not so much the past couple of years, but I used to get nervous watching the races of the same class that I race in, watching the other heat races. I wouldn't really like to watch them because I thought, wow, that's fast and they're so close. But when I'm racing, I don't even think of it. It's just, might sound weird, but it slows down when you're doing it, or you're so focused that it just seems normal. But yeah, I guess at the start of the year when you first get on the snowmobile, the speeds always feel way faster than by the end of the year. You get used to it, I guess. So we've done it for so long now, it really doesn't feel that fast when you're on it. It just kind of feels like you're trail riding, but you're not.
I think any father's just proud of their son, when it comes to whatever activity they're doing, racing or whatever sport or accomplishments they do. And I think you're just proud of your son, and you just want him to do the best and be the best out there and do the best that he can.
Snowmobiles specifically, I just like because I grew up riding snowmobiles. I think they're cool and they're fun to ride. So it's the challenge of competing, being the best you can be, and then once you start racing, to win, I think any racer, any real racer, you don't just want to go race for fun. You want to feel that feeling of winning and being the best you can be. It might be kind of goofy, but I struggle with trusting other people's work on the snowmobile. How I said I do a lot of my own work on it, because when we started racing, it was just Mom, Dad, and I, so it was just Dad and I doing the work on it. If we have 4 or 5 guys in the trailer, I find it hard to just let someone do their job and work on the snowmobile and me not have my hands on it and check it. And that might be a small weakness, but it goes a long way to put the time in and focus as much as you can on being the all-around package, working on the snowmobile, understanding how it works, and understanding what it takes to be a top-level driver as well. You don't need the best of everything. Up until a couple years ago, we were the only team in the pro class with a bumper pull trailer. We had a 28-foot trailer, and everyone else had 48, 50-foot trailers, like awesome stuff. And then when we would go out there and beat them, it kind of opened people's eyes, thinking, that's cool. A small team like that with him and his parents, and they're beating these huge teams. I think, not that is to pat you on the back, but I mean, it goes a long way. It kind of makes you feel good about yourself.
He's an aggressive driver. He's one of the best drivers out there. Accomplishments, we've always been sort of had hard luck, and we've come so close so many times, and just never won the big one so far, the WC. So at 3 years in a row, we've had hard luck. We've been the #1 contender the last couple of years, and just hard luck, and we've never got it. So, but yeah, I just think Colt's a real good driver. There's only a few of them in the world that can drive these things, and so you take the top 10, and there's only a few of them that can really drive these sleds.
Preparation is a big thing I've found in racing, and like I said, the confidence used to be a bit of an issue. I'd get nervous or didn't really believe in myself, I guess, but the past few years has been really good. We've kind of had stepping stone years and had some victories and moments that proved that I could beat anyone that we race against. Or before a race weekend, I do as much as I can. Well, I physically prepare myself as much as I can, but then the mental aspect is just as big, and the biggest thing I find is just think of past moments that have happened racing where I know I could have won or had good opportunity, and just replay those in my mind to remember that I do have what it takes to do this, and we have had these moments of victory. Yeah, I think injuries in racing is a big thing, for good and bad with a lot of racers. How I said, it was the first year I was racing, and my second race ever, I crashed and broke my collarbone, and I was 16, so it didn't bother me or anything. I was more just disappointed with myself because I wanted to keep going to the races. So I think we had to skip 2 races, and then before it was even fully healed, I went back racing at the end of the year, and we had to wear like not a sling, but tape it all up kind of in place. Almost every form of racing, like at a high level, an injury makes someone come back stronger, which might not be always the case, but you look at some past racers, and whenever someone has an injury, I think it gives you a bit of a desire to work that bit harder to come back stronger, and that might not be the case for everyone. Training, I realized, was a huge aspect of racing and just physical fitness, so I started racing motocross in the summer after the second year I raced snowmobiles. So that summer, I spent a lot of time ATV racing motocross, actually, ATV motocross, and I had a bad accident doing that in the summer, and I broke my femur that year, and I had to miss a year of racing snowmobiles because of that accident. The healing went bad, and I had to have multiple surgeries. That really, I found hard that year, because I was still progressing, and I was doing everything I could physically to become a better racer, and then to have that happen, that was really hard, to sit out a whole year wondering what I could have done. So that next year is when I took training even to the next level. I did as much preparation as I could physically, just working out and being as strong as I could. And I was still a young racer, so I didn't come back and have great race results, but that was the most prepared that I could have been after an injury like that.
second. Out of Sunbridge, Ontario, on the 53, Colt Delandria, sponsored by Crystal Head Vodka, former F500 and semi-pro champ winner. This year got third in Valcourt, won in Eganville, and fifth in Wausau last weekend. Fourth year in pro champ.
At this point in my career, when I've done it for 10 years, having an injury, for some people it could end their career because they think they don't want to put the effort in to come back from that, but I think any sort of real racer that has the desire, injuries are going to make them come back stronger, which is kind of a scary thing, but can be good in a way. Support for my racing is huge, and that's an important thing. Without it, I couldn't do this at all. Our race team, since the start of my career, it was just my mom, dad, and I. And it was great for the first few years. We were still just learning the sport and what it takes to go racing. And we had a smaller trailer. It was the first year we started racing, I think it was a 17 or 18 foot trailer. Didn't even have a heater in it. We didn't really know what we were doing. So it was just mom, dad, and I going to the races. And it was fun. And then it just progressed from there. We got a 28 foot bumper pull trailer, which was small compared to what a lot of people have, but it was good for mom, dad, and I. We slept in our trailer. It had a little living quarters set up, and it was just the three of us. And it was cool because in a lot of the beginner classes, it's kind of that family atmosphere. We'd pack up and go away for the weekend or most of the week, and we'd travel together and do everything. So that without them, I wouldn't be able to do it in the first place. And now, as we progressed into the professional level, it was still just my mom, dad, and I. And that's where we really became different than the other race teams, because a lot of these other teams that we grew up racing against, they would have multiple mechanics or a crew chief or a former world champion racer that's mentoring them, and we didn't have any of that. And we didn't grow up racing like past generations, so we didn't know anything about snowmobiles. We had to learn it all on our own. So having that support, it was, my mom just kept us in line and made us food on the weekend, so that was good. But yeah, dad and I, he supported me and I supported him. We did what we could to work on the snowmobile and figure out what it takes to do this. We started kind of opening people's eyes, thinking like, wow, this small team from Canada actually knows what they're doing. And we started beating some of these big teams. It became harder and harder each year when we became faster and the competition was more competitive. It's hard with just a small team like that, because a lot of people don't realize, but throughout the weekend, it's not just go racing and have fun. It's a lot of work in between each race and qualifier. There's prep on the snowmobile and just keeping the trailer, like the generator fueled up or whatever the issue is.
All summer, we get ready to work on it in the fall and then go testing in the fall before the race season. So it's a really big time commitment. It seems like you think about snowmobiles all year round, just not just 3 months that you race them.
We got to the point of having a former world champion help us, so I've kind of got to that point in my career now where we have a couple extra mechanic hands and then a former world champion racer. Every weekend I was going back home to work in the shop or train for the upcoming year, and I feel any real racer I think can relate to that. You have a different upbringing. You're not just out to party. You're focusing on something, and even now I'm 25 and still kind of lost relationships, or you don't have time for the relationships you might want because this is a full-time gig and it's a big commitment. The one biggest race of the year in Eagle River, Wisconsin is the World Championship Snowmobile Race, and that's the race that everybody wants to win, and that's the one race of the year that's the big one. So in 4 years after I started racing, it would have been 2014, that was kind of our breakout year, starting becoming faster, and that year I won the semi-pro level class at Eagle River, and then I qualified into the World Championship class, which is the main World Championship final there, and I didn't really realize at the time how big of a deal that was. Always trying to better myself as a racer when you're coming up before the season or after the season, thinking of upcoming things to change. And obviously you can always better yourself, but I think like at this level of competition, everyone's such good drivers. We're all at a premier level. A lot of it is well, being mentally confident and just the snowmobile preparation. And now we're kind of always thinking about that. What can we do for next year or the upcoming race weekends just to improve our knowledge on the snowmobile?
His great strength is his fitness. He works out most of the year round to keep in shape, and when the races get long, there's only a few guys that have the stamina, and he's got really good stamina that he doesn't get tired. He can run the whole race and not get tired. A lot of the drivers who don't work out near as much as him, they get tired, and you can see that on the track. They slow down.
When I first started, I used to get nervous, and I'd kind of be nervous racing against the guys that I was lining up against, thinking like, wow, those are the big name guys like the Walls, Van Stradonk, Moyle, Wanderscheid, all these guys that I grew up watching and being like, wow, that's cool. But then when I'd line up against them, I used to get nervous, and kind of, I think confidence was a big issue with that. But now I'm past that. I know that I can beat anybody or have the opportunity to. So now, I guess I've done this for quite a while. It's just kind of second nature. It's normal. So on a race day or right before the race, I'm always pretty calm. I try to just talk to myself a little bit in my helmet, just tell myself I'll do good, and mainly just think about the track we're at or how the snowmobile is working, and try to, before the start of the race, I try to replay a couple laps in my head at the track, just to be kind of visualizing it. It goes along the lines of just wanting to win each year. Even though we've come so far into my career and racing at the professional level, I don't have the race resume full of wins that I want. We've never won an actual pro final out in the States. We've won a couple back home in Canada, but we've got lots of seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths out in the States here, but I want win. I want to be able to tell people that I won at Beausejour, Manitoba, or Eagle River, Wisconsin, or all these racetracks, and that's the desire each year. I just want to win races. You've come to that point of being competent enough, being confident enough, and just all the preparation has come together to achieve that goal. And that's I'd say it's almost more of a relief than anything to achieve those goals, but it's not easy to get to that point. And I still haven't got to that point of really feeling what it's like to achieve the goals that I want. For a racer that's wanting to get into racing, or that might be racing already and wants to progress into the pro class, I guess I kind of look back on myself and that I was in that same position. And just from what I've learned over the years, I think the biggest thing is to not give up, and it's not going to be easy. And people had told us that when we started racing too, and I thought, oh, that kind of sounds goofy, but it's true. It's not going to be easy. You might think that you should be doing better than you are, but as long as you're doing the preparation you can to better yourself physically or better your skills working on the snowmobile, you can't give up on it, and it's not going to come easy. And if you really want to progress and become the top level, you can't quit if you have a bad year. And I look at myself, and we've had a lot of bad mechanical DNFs that would be fluky things that would never happen to anyone else. And I've kind of got to the point where you think, are we just not blessed to do this? Like, are we not cut out for this? But I haven't settled for that reason yet.
We've come close so many times, and he always said when he wins the WC, he's going to retire from snowmobile racing. But other people tell him, once you win the WC, the World Championship once, you want to win it 2 or 3 times, so you'll probably never retire.
I kind of look at some of my friends where they've just settled into regular life, having a house, wife, or whatever it may be, and I don't want that. I guess I've kind of learned that about myself, where I want to be a racer, and that's kind of who I want to be. I might be going backwards in some people's mind compared to where I should be, but racing is what I want to focus on, and that's who I want to be. I remember listening to another driver's interview, and his answer was he wanted to be remembered as a racer. And that kind of just stuck with me, and I think that's a really good point, because growing up, you talk about, even now, guys talk about guys from the 80s, and you can just see it in people's face when they say someone's name, and they just, yeah, that guy was fast, or they know where he's from and they knew he was fast. It's just kind of how it is with racers, and I want to be like that. I want to be remembered as a racer.